Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Welcome to those of you that are here with us in person and those of you that are here with us via the live stream. We're glad that you've joined us to close out your week, maybe a week that's a little busy and a little hectic, and welcome in Shabbat, to welcome in these 25 hours that come each week. It's our time of rest, of wonder, of peace. And though we're here in the sanctuary, we miss you being here with us, and we know so many of you are tuning in from home, whether on the live stream, whether on Facebook, and we want to invite you to let us know that you're there. Leave a comment, send a message, send an email, a phone call. Let us know that you're here with us. We want to be able to say hi back. We want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom as well. And so we'll begin our service with our Bar Mitzvah family for this week, and we want to invite up the Lewis family to light our Shabbat candles.
As we light these Shabbat candles, we link ourselves with the generations of our people who have kindled these holy flames. Time passes quickly, and we take this moment to pause and express our gratitude. We stand here as a Bar Mitzvah family with humility and with love for this occasion, for one another, and for being a part of this sacred community.
As we participate in this age-old ritual, we embrace this moment as we move forward in the cycle of our lives. Yesterday, we held our son in our arms, and tomorrow he will be called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. Laughing. These Shabbat candles remind us not only of the joy of this occasion,
These Shabbat candles remind us not only of the joy of this occasion, but they help us to see the light within one another and the strengths that each of us possess. Grateful for all the precious gifts of our lives, we kindle the Shabbat lights.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Mazel tov. We continue on page 4 with one of our psalms for Kabbalat Shabbat. We take this time to really center ourselves and finally settle into the joy that is this day, this Shabbat. Shiru Ladonai on page 4. Sapru As we let the psalm of Kabbalat Shabbat settle in, we now greet the Shabbat bride with Lecha Dodi on page 6. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat and Kabbalah yalai lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat and Kabbalah shamar v'zachor v'dibor echad hishmi'anu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad Hashem el tiferet ve'letchila lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai likrat Shabbat lehu v'nelcha ki v'kol haberacha Merosh v'kerem nesucha sof ma'aseh Shabbat tefila lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai hitareri hitareri kivarorech umimori uri uri shir daveri kavod Adonai alai nitita lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai lecha Dodi likrat kala yalanai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala gam b'simcha uv'tzohala tov emunei am segula boi chala lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah yalai lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabbalah.
We'll continue with our call to prayer. Please rise for Baruch Hu on page 8. Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, v'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei hoshech, v'hoshech mipnei or.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב הרבים.
We'll continue on page 9. In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world.
In
In each age we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment we stand face to face with truth. In each age we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment the knowing heart is filled with wonder. In each age the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Baruch atah Adonai, habarei sukkot shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. et yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru bnei Yisrael et hashabat la'ashot hashabat ledarotam berit olam u'bayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash v'shamru bnei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat לדורותם ברית olam.
Please rise for the blessings of the Amidah on page 15.
Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imateinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chazdei Avot v'Imachot, u'mevii geula livnei bneihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב לחושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יחללו הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. At this point in our service, we pray for those in our community who are in need of healing, healing of the body and healing of the spirit. We also pray for those that are in need of courage and maybe a little bit of hope on these days. Tonight, we're thinking of Stanley Amsterdam, Errol Brett, Cindy Baker, Bill Christie, Edward A. Cohen, Marty Halpern, Alan Telly, Albert Levison, Carolyn Katz-Leibowitz, Jerry Marcus, Robbie Palermo, Gerard Roos, Diane Rosenstein, Bruce Shapiro, Sandy Solon, and Alana Miriam Bat-Hava. I invite you to share the name with those that you are holding close in your hearts this Shabbat, either out loud or type in the chat or share with those around you. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals the sick. As we pray for the healing of the body, we now turn to the healing of the world. We join together as we pray for peace. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
In the midst of moments of hope that we may find throughout our days and our weeks, there's a reality that there's parts of our world that feel like there's a lot of darkness in them right now. It's cold out and the sun's setting early. The polarization in our community continues, and the news of rising COVID numbers looms over us like a dark cloud. As we navigate our way through these murky waters of darkness and uncertainty, just when we need it most, we reach the end of the week, we reach Shabbat. We reach the time when we watch the brightness and the light of the Shabbat candles burn. And in that light, we're reminded of the source of goodness, the source of light in our world. We take this day of Shabbat to grasp that light, to grasp that brightness, and use it to carry us through the week. As we move into a few moments of silent prayer, I invite you to consider that light, consider the ways that our Shabbat candles from this evening may be your source of light for you this week. We'll pray silently.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I hope that everyone could hear us coming through. We are trying all kinds of new things by being safe and coming in from our own homes. And especially tonight, I am really honored to introduce our guest speaker. Tiffany Shlain is an Emmy-nominated filmmaker, founder of the Webby Awards, and author of the national best-selling book, 24/6. Giving up screens one day a week to get more time, creativity, and connection. We'll make sure we put that on the chat. Everyone should order it immediately. It recently won the Marshall McLuhan Outstanding Book Award. Tiffany has received over 80 awards and distinctions for her films and work, including selection for the Albert Einstein Foundation's Initiative Genius, 100 Visions for the Future, inclusion on NPR's list of best commencement speeches, and being named by Newsweek as one of the women shaping the 21st century. Her films include her feature documentary, Connected, an autobiography about love, death, and technology, The Tribe, The Unorthodox, Unauthorized History of the Barbie Doll and the American Jewish People, The Making of a Mensch, and Technology Shabbats. She and her work have been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, NPR, Elle, and on Jeopardy! During the pandemic, Tiffany has stayed busy by writing weekly newsletters, giving online talks. She made a film for the election and is hosting a monthly Zoom holiday, which I know some of you have been on, with special guests and people from all over the world. For information on her book, again, it's a must get, baking, films, lectures, and her newsletter, Breakfast at Tiffany's, visit tiffanyshlain.com. and follow Tiffany on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So those are her bona fides, and I could have gone on longer. She has an incredibly impressive resume, but certain people, Tiffany, are supposed to know each other in this world. Although I've never actually gotten to meet you in person, I feel like we are old friends. When people share really precious people in common, you know that there's a sort of a soulful connection. So one of Tiffany's dearest friends in life is Rabbi Sidney Mintz, who's one of my dearest friends in life. And we all became connected through the Book of Life Project, which many of you join, which Rabbi Yoshi Zweiback and Rabbi Sidney Mintz and myself get to teach. Tiffany and her husband are dutiful attendees. That is coming back this Thursday evening, by the way, on the East Coast. You all see it. Yes, we're excited for that. So Tiffany, I can't wait till COVID's over and we could actually connect in person. Rabbi Perlman, who loves to read, reads like 50 books a month. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, Karen, but reads a lot. And she said, have you ever heard of Tiffany Shlain? And I started to laugh like, Karen, you know I love Tiffany Shlain. How do you know her? She's like, my God, this book is incredible. And so again, all the cosmic pieces seem to come together. Wow. So Tiffany, welcome to Congregation B'nai Jeshurun. I know you've studied with some of us. We're 1,250 family congregation on the East Coast, loves to learn, loves to be curious, and loves to be connected. And you're here to help connect us this evening. So
that was such a Hamish intro. I wish I could hug you. Both.
You're going to. We are going to hug. I promise you we're going to hug.
Someday I'll come in person. The Calvary's
Yes.
coming with the vaccine. We'll be traveling again sometime next year. But it's so great to be here. And I was just talking to Sydney today, and she was so excited we're doing this. And Karen, I'm so looking forward to having this discussion with you. And I'm just really happy to be part of your service this evening.
Thank you. And I'll say that it's so nice because it's really, really dark here, but we can still see the sunlight on the West Coast. So that is the hope. So I was hoping that we could start by you could tell us, and I have the book here, and I'll plug it a few more times. That's what it looks like. The bright colors. But I wondered
those match my sweater. I just noticed.
It actually does. It definitely matches very nicely. But I wonder if you could tell us the origin story of the book and how the idea of a tech Shabbat came to be in your family's life. And then I have lots of questions, but we'll start there.
Great. Yeah, I grew up in a big Reform temple in Northern California. My parents were atheists. We did not do Shabbat. I was bat mitzvahed, went to high holidays, and I loved being Jewish, like the food, the culture, the ideas, but we did not practice Shabbat. And it wasn't really until I met my husband, who he's a robotics professor at Berkeley, but he had lived in Israel to study robotics. And he would tell me how impressed he was that the whole country shut down and for Shabbat. And so when we met, this was before the iPhone, which is an important part of the story because my background is that I founded the Webby Awards, which is like the Oscars of the internet. So obviously I love technology, and my husband's, makes robots. We love it, but I don't love it all the time. And I think when I met him and he said, oh, I do Shabbat, I don't work on Saturdays, which I thought was incredibly sexy because he was this young professor, just gotten tenure. I'm like, you don't work on Saturdays? Like, no, I don't. And I was like, and he told me he grew up doing a Shabbat dinner, but that was pretty much all they did. But then when he went to Israel, he kind of stopped working. And I just thought that was so cool. So we started doing it, but then the iPhone came around 2007. So we met in 1997. So cut to, we have a child, we're like building our lives together. And the iPhone came out, which really was a game changer because then suddenly work and everything could come with you all the time. And I started just feeling so distracted and like I was never anywhere. I was everywhere and nowhere. And I didn't like the way I felt. Like I was a very present person before. And suddenly like I just couldn't stop looking at my phone, or I never felt like I was fully engaged in a conversation. And I should say that my father, he was one of the most present people in the world. And I used to love talking to him. And in the course of a couple weeks, my father died of brain cancer. And Ken's, my second daughter, was born. And it really felt like one of those life moments that was like grabbing me by the shoulders and saying, how do you want to live your life? And like I said, my father, the most consistent comment people said to me at his funeral, people that I didn't know and people that knew him, was like, your father made me feel like the most important person in the room. And I almost felt like he started getting sick right when people started getting more. No one was the most important person in the room anymore because everyone's got dings and buzzes and they're doing a million things at once. So, and at that point, Ken's Shabbat was getting all squishy because of the iPhone. So work started merging everywhere. The phone was constantly there. And that meant that everyone was constantly there. So my father just passed, our daughter was born, and I was part of the first class of Reboot, which is like this group of Jews trying to rethink Jewish rituals. And we were doing a National Day of Unplugging, which was supposed to be like one ceremonial day to rethink Shabbat. I should also tell you that the only Jews that I knew that did Shabbat, they did the dinner, they did the candles, they did the challah. That was it. I did not know anyone except one young Jewish couple, modern Orthodox, that did a full day. And I was fascinated, but I was like, oh, I'm not that kind of Jew. That's not available to me because I'm not a religious Jew. And I say that because this is the exciting part, is that we did that National Day of Unplugging with like hundreds of people all over the country. And I was like, we turned off all screens for 24 hours. And I just immediately felt like I returned back to myself. Like I felt a sense of calm and appreciation and presence I hadn't felt in years. And Ken and I never stopped doing it every week. It's been almost 11 years now. And it was such a profound change in my life, this full day of Shabbat. And then I started getting really deep on Shabbat, like on what the different rabbis said, the philosophers, Abraham Heschel, I went very deep on that. But then I really went into the neuroscience, and it felt so good. And I felt so creative on Saturdays, and I felt so productive the next day. And my kids are now 17 and 11. It's their favorite day of the week too. And everyone thinks kids can't be with technology. And it's like, it is my family's best day. It's the best day of the week. So as we were nearing kind of 10 years of doing it, and people they never can believe we do it because, we're tech people and we love it, but the boundary of Shabbat, which is so incredible. And I just felt like I had to share this idea. And I want to note that I called my book, for about a year, the book was called Tech Shabbat, because that's what we call it. We call it our Tech Shabbat. But then I changed the title to 24/6. And the reason why is there's so many people that I know would feel like I would feel like, oh, I'm not that kind of Jew, or that's what Orthodox Jews do a full day. So I wanted to kind of get to the essence of Shabbat, which is this one day of rest. It's the fourth commandment. It is above, do not commit murder. And I often think maybe if you took a day of rest, you won't commit murder. But like the fact that it's that high on the list as a good way to live your life. And 99% of the people I know, Jews, don't do it. They do the dinner. And the dinner's amazing. I do it every Friday. It's very social. It's very Hamisha. It's very loving. We always have friends at a distance now outside. but I now understood that it's the entrance. It's like the door is open to this very soulful, deep, reflective, more quiet day of returning to yourself. And so it's been really exciting. So I wrote the book last fall before the pandemic. And then of course, during the pandemic, it became like 10 times more important. And so many people would say to me, well, now that everyone has to be on Zoom for Shabbat and for this and that, you must not be doing your tech Shabbat. And I look at them like they're Meshuggah. I'm like, we cling to our tech Shabbat. Like the news is so stressful. It's, as Ken calls it, like a form of self-protection. And, you know, this kind of concept that you're building a palace in time, brick by brick, and you have to be intentional about it because the whole world wants to keep you glued to the screen every second. And there are so many beautiful ways to connect, like this service tonight. And I've been, you know, the couple times we've broken tech Shabbat this during the pandemic has been for a Zoom bar mitzvah or a shiva, or we certainly make some exceptions. And I talk about that in the book because we're human, but most of the time we don't. And I also talk about how we do that because a lot of people can't believe like you can live before screen. Like we lived before the cell phone. We do have a landline, I should tell you, but that's a good thing to have anyways.
So Tiffany, can I ask you about the pandemic? Because I think the irony, of course, is that we're all on the screen.
Yeah.
And we're all we want to be connected to each other, and we can't be physically, or we can be at a distance, and nice weather always helps that. But you wrote this before the pandemic, but how has that sort of changed the way you think about what you wrote a year ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I remember in the heat of lockdown, Odessa, who's our 17-year-old, that was when like you could barely go outside. It was like April. And she turned to me and she was like, you know, tech Shabbats are the only day I don't feel like I'm in quarantine. And I was like, wow, that's so big. Because it's incredibly, the word I always use to describe is I feel set free by not all the obligations and all the notifications and all the stressful news headlines and emails. And there's so much good in there, but it's also intermixed with everything. But one thing I have said to people, they're like, well, I go to a Shabbat service like this. And we at the beginning, we're not doing it so much now, but like at the beginning of our Shabbat, we have a lot of family back east. So we would light candles on Zoom right before we had our dinner. And then it was the first thing we did when we turned back on the screen. So it was like a love sandwich to our tech Shabbat. So we were seeing family, but we still had that day. And you know, we still do Shabbats. We just installed an outdoor heater that we're just about to test out, but we tell people wear a lot of clothes. We're doing an outdoor Shabbat at a distance. So Friday is very social for us still, but Saturday, you know, as a mom of 2 kids and working parent, the weeks are so, you know, they're in online Zoom school and I just can't wait to turn them off. I just feel like it's the day we come back together. And we have done it with 2 kids in soccer. You know, we have, you know, and that just takes a little bit of prep of like Friday afternoon, like where I am now, like, do we have any plans tomorrow? But we try not to make a lot of plans on Saturday. Like Friday is the very social night and Saturday is family day, which when I was growing up, family day was on Sundays. And it was a beautiful day because the stores were all closed and it felt very different. And that's really what our Shabbats are like. So it's really a day about us hanging out together and not inviting the world in. And if my friends want to be social on the weekend, well, my older daughter will go out on Saturday night, but really we invite a lot of their friends, families over for Shabbat, which is also a really wonderful way to kind of get to know the whole picture of your kids' friends. So I think that the pandemic has only, like, I cannot wait to turn off the screens tonight. Like I count the hours. I'm like, oh, I just will be able to think again. Like we don't realize how much we are unable to do deep thinking. We're unable to do deep reading. Like I'm so curious, you read so many books and I do my best reading on Shabbat because during the week I get into bed and I read for like a half an hour, but I'm so tired and my kids will come in and like and then there'll be a line in the book that will make me think of something on the phone and then I'm off the book. So my favorite, like I actually put things aside that I'm like, oh, I want to think deeply about that. So I'm going to read it on Saturday. And even my husband and I were like, let's talk about that on Shabbat because there isn't so much noise.
So how about the detox element? Meaning that, you know, I've read studies that say that like when people go away on vacation and really lock their phone away, that some of them experience like flu-like symptoms the first day or so because there's all this chemistry that goes on inside of our bodies. And I remember, you could share this, but Sid, as close as we are in rabbinic school, rabbinic students could be competitive sometimes. And we were writing our thesis with the same advisor, and we all had to get it in. And that was the year of my life that I gave myself 25 hours. And sure enough, I said to Sid, I'm finished. I'm the first one in my class. And it was working one less day than everyone else did. And I think it's because I was so much more energetic for the other 6 days. But what I want to get to is like, why are we detoxing? What's going on inside of us? And I know you're not a chemist, but I'm asking you what you think happens there. And then I couldn't help, Karen said to me today, we were talking about you earlier, and she said, did she find out that Biden won last Saturday, or was she off until Saturday
that's
night?
an interesting.
So go ahead. So to both of those, please react.
Let me answer those 3 questions. So that's what the beauty of Shabbat is. Like, a lot of people say to me, oh, well, I turn off my screen for vacation. And I'm like, well, that's great, but that's not Shabbat. That's not, to me, the power of Shabbat is the weekliness of it. And so I don't think we experience that detox feeling, because it's like we're building a muscle. Like, my kids can walk out of the house without their phone. Well, my youngest doesn't have a phone, but who's 11. Well, she has a flip phone that looks nicer than that. But it's like building a muscle. So I think, to me, it's the power of Shabbat is the weekliness of it. And that is a whole day every week. And it frames your whole week. I mean, ironically, a lot of my friends that are rabbis, they're like, I'm always working on Saturday, which is like the great irony of being a rabbi. Okay, so that was your first question. So I think the Shabbat builds in this like muscle in you that you look forward to it. And something else you said, like Ken said, he feels the most productive on Sunday. And Israel is such a productive country. That whole country shuts down for one day. They don't have a 2-day weekend, which is also something people don't get, but Israel is like a 1-day weekend. And in America, we fought for a 2-day weekend, and now we let ourselves be available to everyone and everything all weekend long with our phones. So I totally agree about productivity. And I also am a filmmaker. So I look at creativity like an athlete. And when I am a big journal writer, and all of my best ideas, hands down, come on Saturday. They don't come to me the other days. The big ideas, Saturday. When I'm spacing out, I'm just sitting there and I'm just ruminating, because we don't have any space to ruminate. We optimize every friggin' second. We're like, I'm going to walk, I'm going to listen to a podcast, and then I'm going to call my friend, and I'm going to get this, then I'm going to check the news. Like, we weren't designed, and I've made a lot of films about neuroscience. My father was a surgeon who specialized in the brain. I kind of grew up learning about the brain from my mom and dad. My mom's a psychologist. My dad's was a surgeon. And we weren't designed to be this on. And there's this mode that your brain goes into called the default mode network, which usually it's why you have your best ideas where, like, you're doing the dishes, you're in the shower, you're on a walk, is because there's no new input. There's already so many exciting things are in there that are very unique to your life and only your experiences. And when you're daydreaming, you think about the past, you think about the future, you kind of time travel, ideas kind of collide in your mind. And right now we are creating no room for that. So I look at my Saturdays, and even doing the dishes now, which there's been a lot during the pandemic. And now I'm like, oh, it's magic hour, or it's like magic time for my brain. I'm going to not listen to NPR while I'm doing the dishes, and I'm just going to do the dishes, because I know that my mind is doing some amazing things when I don't give it new input.
So wait, how did you find that about Biden?
Okay, that was very funny. So I felt very confident that Biden was going to win it, because I'm in a group called Artists for Biden-Harris. So I was getting some intel from the campaign about all the numbers we were going to win in the swing states, which have turned out right, by the way. I knew that Friday, and I was on Twitter like everyone else on the news. I was like, so hungry. And I jokingly tweeted out, I'm like, let me know if anything happens, but I'm going offline for 24 hours because my brain is so fried. So Saturday morning, it was like, I just felt something. And here's the thing, Ken, my husband, is my Shabbos goy, because he, for an emergency, like, and I talk about this in the book, I don't like to look at I don't want the screens to be near me on my tech Shabbat. But Ken, he feels more comfortable. He's like a worrier. So whatever, that's cool. My sister called Ken and said, Tiffany must break tech Shabbat because she needs to see people dancing outside of the White House on the news. And I'm like, that's the friggin' best reason to break tech Shabbat. So I looked at people dancing outside of the White House. My daughters and I, we all dressed up and went to San Francisco and danced outside of City Hall. And I'm like, this is the best reason to break tech Shabbat. So that was That's how I found out, is through my sister calling my husband, calling me, and yeah. But it was pretty, I think the neighbors would have told me, but it's funny, the really important news you're going to find out. And the truth is, in the whole almost 11 years, this landline that people can call in case of an emergency, and sometimes I call my mom on Tech Shabbat. How many times do you think it's rung with an emergency in all those years? 0.
Right.
It's like I think we forgot what it's like to live without a phone. And most things can wait, and you'll be able to deal with the things, even if something happens, better if you have time to regroup. And we're just never giving ourselves, I think most people they haven't turned it off for a day. And it feels so good. I mean, once you get past the fear, and I do think there's fear, like I just worked with 100 Jewish families through PJ Library, which I'm sure you guys all know. We got this grant to kind of, where I was working with them to bake in, like do 4 weeks of Tech Shabbat. And usually in a relationship, there's one person more addicted than the other. And like the husbands will be like, I gave my wife to read the book. And the wives will be like, I made my husband read the book, because I have a lot of science in there. And sometimes there's some people in the relationship need the science to like, be like, this is bad for you to be this stressed out and have cortisol running through your system all day long. But it was really interesting, because what is the fear of turning off your phone? And I think this is like, there's some spiritual questions there. Like, I use probably different words, and I've brought this up at the Book of Life. Like, I don't use the word God. There are things, but I think we're probably talking about similar things. But I find like I can hear an inner voice on Saturday that I never can hear. It's that voice that's like, write that book, make that film, change that situation. I only hear it on Saturday, because normally it's too busy, it's too noisy. And so you could say that inner voice is like a spiritual voice of something you ultimately know that's inside of you, but you don't give space to hear it. And every wisdom practice, Buddhism, I mean, like every religion talks about the need for silence and quiet and hearing the inner voice. And I just think we've created a society that doesn't value reflection. I mean, just look at Trump. I mean, he's the antithesis of anything about forethought.
So Tiffany, let me ask you one last question. We could definitely talk to you for a very long time. I could feel the energy and the synergy here. But so you're talking to a group of our congregants, some of whom, it's the end of a long week. And what would you say is one tangible thing they can do right this minute or tomorrow? Just one thing, if they're not ready to jump into the 24 hours, what's just one thing they can do to take some of the wisdom that you have and bring into their life?
Okay. So in the book, I also have a section of things I do the other 6 days, like little interventions to stop myself from just like flicking my wrists for distraction, numbness, entertainment, excitement, whatever, connection. So right after the last election, I was waking up and I was looking at the New York Times app, and I immediately was like, and I remember just thinking, wow, I don't want that to set the tone for my day. So I started a ritual, the last election, that I love to share with all of you. It's very simple, but I keep my phone on airplane mode. I do use it for an alarm clock. I've tried a lot of other things, but that's what I use my alarm clock. But it's on airplane mode, so it wakes me up, and it's totally on airplane mode. And I walk downstairs to get my coffee, and I write in something called a 5-minute journal. And it is literally will take you 5 minutes. It just says, what are 3 things you're grateful for? What are 3 things that would make today great? And it's such a beautiful way to start my day. And you can I'll send a couple links so you can find it. You can find it online. And I am telling you, and then after I've answered those questions and thought about my day, what's happening today? What would make today great? Then at the end of the day, I go back to this same journal. So note that my phone is not the first and last thing I look at, but at the end of the day, for 5 minutes, it said, what are 3 amazing things that happened today? And there's just 3 lines, and they're often very different than what I thought. And then this is the best line at the end. It says, what's one thing you wish you did differently today? A little bit of reflection. And I'm telling you, ending your day, 5 minutes on either side with those questions and that intention is so powerful. And it immediately lets you frame the day instead of letting the world frame the day for you. And I have a lot more of those kind of examples in my book. And I know, Yeah, I think, well, Matthew's led us through so many incredible meditations in the Book of Life. But I think, and I'm always trying to meditate more. That's why I love guided ones, because I don't quite do it on my own. But I find that if you can build in these kind of mini rituals, you're kind of building that muscle for the greatest gift of the Jews, which is Shabbat. The greatest gift of the Jews is one complete day of rest to be able to contribute best to your family, community, and the world. And I'm so excited to kind of go deep with Jews on this thing that's from our people. So
Really
that was
is.
a mini thing, but I really want people to try the full day.
Absolutely. So Tiffany, thank you so much. I want to just say one thing about her book is on the cover, there's a great quote from Angela Duckworth, the author of Grit, that says, "Put down your phone and pick up this book." I will tell you, it is not a hard read. It is a great Shabbos read. So we'll put the info in the chat for you to buy the book. And I promise you, even I would say maybe rabbis and clergy, we struggle with Shabbat maybe in a different way because our brains think about Shabbat in a different way. But Tiffany, I'll say personally, it really gave me some ideas about how I could actually unplug myself and try to tune into some of this. So thank you for being with our community. And
you're welcome in person.
we can't wait to meet you in
Cannot wait.
person. And,
I can't wait to come. I'll come whenever I come to New York a lot, so I can just skip over there.
Yes.
And I really, thank you so much for what you said, Karen, and for such a warm welcome. And I'm looking forward to Book of Life. Everyone come check it out who hasn't been. It's so wonderful.
That's great. So we're going to turn our service back to our colleagues in the sanctuary. Tiffany, Shabbat Shalom. Thanks so much.
Shalom. Bye.
And thank you for that really rich conversation and a beautiful reminder, as we just heard, of what truly is a gift and what it means to embrace that gift of Shabbat each week. And we'll now begin to conclude our service. We turn to the words of Mourner's Kaddish, the words that honor the lives of those in our families and our communities whom we have lost. This week, we are observing the period of Shiva for Herbert Lapshin, husband of Phyllis, father of Linda and Larry, and Jody and Stacy, grandfather of Alexa, Michelle, Evan and Jessica, brother-in-law of Helen and cousin of Francis, and uncle to many loved nieces and nephews. We're in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning for Richard Davis, Glenda Jason, Ronald Ryder, and Robert Weinstein. And it's the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of Isidore Ackerman, Francis Altshuler, Sandra Hausman Augenblick, Nathan Borkin, Babette Brenner, Arthur Louis Felsenheld, Irving R. Freeman, Samuel Freeman, Philip M. Gell, Harold D. Glucksman, Ray Goldsticker, George Goodman, Walter Janoff, Clara Harmelin, Jenny Marks Heller, Barney Hoffman, Philip G. Hood, Sadie Kerpel, Francis Mayers Landersman, Florence Lewin Lawrence, Julia Leichtman, Ruth Leiter, Sarah May Levy, Shirley Lichtman, Louis Lieberman, Ida London, Samuel London, Beatrice Minoff Flowengrub, Bernard Mendel, Dr. George V. Newman, Nina Pomerantz, Minna Puder, Ira Robbins, Adeline Dreyfus-Rosen, Albert Rosenband, Molly Stier, John I. Slavin, Harry F. Summer, Scott Summer, David Sperber, Morris Saltzman, Ernestine Hanauer Turkis, Theodore Wasserstein, Edward Wattenmaker, Miriam Weinberg, and Joseph Louis Winard. We rise as one sacred community to honor their memory as we recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish. We're on page 20. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudasha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. Please be seated. Just a few announcements before we conclude. This Sunday is the last day for our Thanksgiving food and coat drive. There's a lot of people that are in need this time of year, and we really encourage you to give what you can. We are collecting frozen turkeys on Sunday. We are collecting bags of food and coats and hats and scarves and gloves. All the information is on our website. Again, we're collecting through Sunday morning. Swing by, drop it off, and a really important time of the year to give what we can. There's also Sunday morning, Cantor Fishbein is teaching her second of the 2 series adult education class about the cross between secular and Jewish music. It's going to be a really exciting class. I invite you to be there on Zoom at 9:45. And tomorrow morning, something really exciting is happening. Got a bar mitzvah. I'm going to invite Jordan Lewis, come on up. And we have a few things for you. We have almost out of the way here, but we're going to give you your microphone right there. You can grab that. We have for you in this bag, we've got a challah, you've got some grape juice, and you've got this Kiddush cup, which you don't have to worry about now. You can just take this bag with you. This Kiddush cup is a gift from our TBJ Brotherhood and Women's Association. We hope that you will not only use it this weekend, and you can bring it back tomorrow, but that you'll use it for many, many years to come, many exciting and joyous moments. So this is for you. We'll leave this right here while you brush up. And this is on and ready to go. And take it away.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadesho b'ahava u'v'ratzon hinhilanu zikaron lema'aseh b'reishit ki hu yom tehila l'mikrayei kodesh zeher l'tziat mitzrayim ki banu baharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amin v'shabbat kadeha b'ahava u'v'ratzon hinhilanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha'Shabbat.
Amen. Beautiful.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lehem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat shalom. Mazel
Shabbat.
tov.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Yasher koach. That's what we say when somebody does something really cool. You can take that with you. It's a little bit heavy. No, you can leave that here. Take this and that bag with you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Beautiful job, Jordy. So we conclude our service with the words of Shabbat Shalom.
Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May God strengthen us and bless all people, all of us, our community, all those we love, and all those in the world with peace. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.